Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Jackson. I'm here to talk with another dynamic author from the Black Writers Workspace page. Now, of course, you're probably like, I've seen you, Michelle, so many times this week. What is going on with you, or what is going on with me, is that tomorrow we will have our third virtual book fair. And that book fair is called the Book Relaunch Party. And we have over 20 new and independent authors who will be available to talk with you in their own chat room about their books, and you can buy books directly from them. Now, why do we do this? We do this because, really, to be honest with you, as a self-published author, we are always looking for avenues to sell and promote our work, and what better way to do it than using all the amazing technology that's out there. So we are doing this virtual book fair. We will have 4 hours of music. We've got jazz guitarist Kashmir Williams. We will have prizes. We will have a scavenger hunt. We will have author interviews. And of course, we will have our authors lounge. And in that lounge, you will be able to go and meet with some of our dynamic authors from the page. And I'm so excited about that because it's so much talent in the Writers Workspace. And I just want you to get that opportunity to meet with them. So the event is free. It is on boothcentral.com, and that's booth, BOOTH, central, spelled just like it sounds.com. And you can register and be a part of this event. But as of today, we have Sacha Moore with this name that I love, Sacha, Sacha, Sacha. I love it to death. And she's with us to talk about her 10 published books. And we're going to learn about what inspired her to write those books and what's her next step in this industry. Hi, Sacha. How you doing?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's so good to have you on the screen with me to learn about your work and to share your experiences with the people on the page. Um, so, talk to us a little bit about what you do, why you do it, and then give us a little bit of information about your work because we're excited to have you here.
Mhm. I'm a romance author. I pretty much have always written like romance or relationships or, working out problems, talking to people, that dialogue, that connection, making that connection through my characters. So that's what I do. My books are extremely diverse as far as characters, backgrounds, occupation, where they hail from, whether it's a different country or the United States. It runs the gambit. I love diversity and I love that in my characters because I think it brings something more
Mhm.
to the story when it's two people connecting from different worlds that you would never actually put together because of whether it's life experiences or ethnicities or language barriers, what have you. So that's what I write about. I write about love, real life relationships, real life struggles. Um, None of my characters are perfect, because we're flawed people. We're
Mhm.
flawed individuals. So I write about that as well. I like for them to go through challenges and overcome something,
Yeah.
whether it's individually or together. So,
You know,
that's.
I love that. So you write the types of books that I love, and those are the books that really deal with the human experience.
Mhm.
I am a fiction writer as well, and my books are the same. I like to really dig into the things that inspire us and make us who we are. I always say I don't write about wizards or rings or anything like that, and I have nothing against that form of
Mhm.
fiction. However, I think the human experience and the power of the human experience, the fact that we are such powerful people, just all in ourselves, we're able to love, we're able to lust, we're able to have lust, to have
Mhm.
passion and
Yeah.
pain, and we're so dynamic that just telling stories about individuals in their own natural habitat is
Mhm.
fascinating to me. So, from my understanding, you've been writing though since you were what, 9 years old?
Actually, probably more about around 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, when I could write, I mean, obviously they weren't like involved stories, but it really was an escape for me. Um, I was going through a lot of trauma at the time. So it was really like building those characters so that I can kind of put myself in those stories and kind of escape um, the world that I was living in, the real world, I should say, that I
Hmm.
was living in. And it helped me cope,
Hmm.
so it's really been a coping mechanism to write, not just like stories, but journaling, all of the writing tools that we use. But it's really like a coping mechanism. For me, I'm extremely introverted and I don't like to be out in front. So like even talking with you today is kind of like, yeah, it's a big step. So,
We're going to make it easy for you. We completely understand that a lot of our writers are introverts. And I think that's what makes us great writers, though, is
mhm,
that you have this perspective that is so singular and so close to you, who you are and who and what you do. I know for myself, I always tell people my unofficial high school bully. We didn't have bullies in high school. We had these unofficial, but people who just pick with you and you pick back with
yeah,
them.
yeah,
She would always say to me that I lived in my head. And, I'm
hmm,
young at the time, and I'm like, why?
yeah,
How can she see something so deep in me? But
hmm,
it was very true.
yeah,
I went to all the parties and had all this great fun, but really I was a big introvert and I enjoy,
hmm,
and I still do. I
yeah,
love being with me. It's not
yeah,
a selfish thing. It's just something I've learned to enjoy. And
yeah,
so writing is so natural for me. It almost allows me to tell these stories that are just taking place in my head 24 hours a day, and getting them on paper is probably a way for me to not be considered insane. I will say it that way. And writing is that. Writing is a wonderful outlet for dealing with pain and grief and heartache and hardship. And I understand completely how you feel. I got lost in books growing up. That was my getaway.
hmm.
Um, but tell me about that moment where you knew that writing was the thing that you wanted to do um, forever. I won't even say as a profession. I'll just say forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's so difficult because I think, as we grow as individuals, as humans, like we go through so many stages in our lives, and it's almost like a full circle that we go because we start out with something and then we take all these different paths, but
Mhm.
somehow they lead us back. So I would say I knew probably in high school. However, like I wasn't confident in my writing. Like I had published a few things like poems and, just small things. But I wasn't confident in my writing until I was in my 40s. So like so it was about like 2014. So I just entered my 40s and had many careers and had, walked many paths, raised two children. Like, so it just brought me back because I realized that that is where I found peace.
Mhm.
That is where, I could release those things, even though there isn't a creative way and the characters are not me, they're an extension of me.
Mhm.
They're, me working out issues, not necessarily those issues, but just issues. So I would say high school and then again solidified 2014, 2013, 2014.
Yeah, I completely understand. For those of you out there who are watching this broadcast, we are live and we have Sacha Moore here. She's the author of 10 fiction novels, books that she really got into in her 40s, almost similar to me. I published my first book at 35. Someone who always was a writer by heart, in her heart, as well as something that she knew she would ultimately do. And so we're just really happy to have her. And for those of you out there who have any questions for Sacha or for me, please, please, please drop those in the chat box. Now, why do we have Sacha here? Sacha is going to be at our book fair tomorrow. She has a book and she's going to be in her virtual booth ready to talk to you about her work, ready to get to know you. That's what the book relaunch party is all about. This party, and it is a party, it's all about dancing and music and celebrating. We are celebrating the re release of all these books that we've either released in the past or that we released during COVID. Because many of us dropped books in the midst of a pandemic, and I don't think anyone has any experience of what that would have been like. We didn't know what that was going to be like. We just started releasing books. And so the Black Writers Workspace, with over 8,500 people involved, most of them are independent authors, many of which who have dropped books since the COVID pandemic. We're all just trying to celebrate the work because that's what it's all about. Now, you said something about, you would do writing from, when you were younger, and you knew you wanted to be a writer. I did too. But it sounds like both of us got stuck in that situation of, could this happen? Now, I can't speak to your history, your past, but for me, I didn't grow up around people who wrote books. I grew up around people who worked hard and kept their head down and did what they had to do. And I grew up in a very creative household, though. My brothers were artists and they made clothes, but it was very hard to try to understand, how do you become successful at this? And I think the success piece is where, especially with an introvert's mind, it's like, how does this all happen? What was it that helped you to get to that place of confidence that this is the moment for you to start dropping these books, like you said, in 2014 at the age of 40 years old? Mm-hmm.
I think partly my girls, my two daughters, and then partly just saying try, just willing myself to try. Like, what's it gonna hurt? Let's just put one out and then see what happens. Like, get the feedback. And my eldest daughter, she used to read, like, there's a website where she could read like free books. Like, people would, just write stories. Most of them, people not like published authors, but they would just write stories. And so I'm like, what are you doing? And she was like reading. I mean, she'd be in her room. This was like all summer. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't see her because she was reading on her like iPad. What is going on? So I wanted to check it out just to see, like, inquisitive parents want to know, okay, what are you doing really? And so I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I actually posted a story on there, and because I wanted to see what that feedback would be like. And so I actually still, to this day, like, before I publish a book, I put it on that free site and I have people read it and I get the feedback. So then I say, okay, this will work or this won't work. But honestly, since I started doing that, it's been amazing. Like, the feedback, just people's encouragement, saying like, this book was so great. Like, I was moved by it. Like, I cried, I laughed, I was angry, like, that's what I want. I want that emotion. I want people to feel what the characters are feeling. I want them to put themselves in those shoes and, like, actually experience those experiences the characters are feeling so that they can have those emotions. They can, get those feelings that the characters are getting. So, yeah, it was kind of twofold. So it was like that, and then I wanted to leave something for my girls.
Yeah.
I want to have a legacy for them. And I said, I cannot do that when I'm, being timid and being afraid to actually put myself out there. And it's scary because, again, it's an extension of me. That's like you're seeing a part of me that I didn't share before. So it's scary, but invigorating at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Was it anybody in your world who said something that made you wonder if it was the right decision to do, to put yourself out there like that? Because you write romance, and romance is a tough thing. I can remember writing a book and having someone close to me say something very odd, which was, you cursed in the book. And I was just like, I was an older person, and I kind of was like, what?
Oh my God.
Serious? And it struck me as, it reminded me of how people pay attention to all these really minor things, and they sometimes can miss the big picture. You're writing romance, or you're writing things that people can say, "Oh, this is smut," or "This is whatever," but it's not. It's romance. And I have you ever had anyone to say anything that made you feel kind of questioning your ability to put things like this out there?
Not really questioning my ability. More so like a feeling of embarrassment, I guess,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Because it's one thing to have strangers read like your stories, but when it's somebody that you know, like somebody you work with, it's like, oh, I bought your book, and I'm reading your book. It's kind of like, oh, okay, because you people kind of create something in their mind about who you are. Even though they know you, it's like, oh, she wrote about this, and this was very like a graphic sex scene, so
Hmm.
that sort of thing. And so it's like they're side eyeing you, but
Hmm.
it could just be in your mind, but it's just like, what did you think? It's kind of like that. But no, I've not had any like negative feedback
Good.
from anybody or discouragement or anything like that. And if I did, like I have, my mom behind me and my girls behind me that's really pushing me to do what it is that I do,
And this,
and
yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I ask because I know that there are a lot of people on the BWW page who wants to publish. And there
Yeah.
are these hurdles, and they're
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah.
must admit. I wrote my first book while my husband was, well, I started before he went to Iraq, and
Mhm.
he's a retired military soldier. And when he got back, I'd written the book, but I didn't tell anybody. I
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody. And I think about, why didn't I tell anybody I was writing a book? I've always wanted to be a writer, but I felt a twinge of shame, or not really shame, but
Mhm.
worry about how it would be perceived.
Yeah.
And when he got home, I showed it to him, and he loved it and was like, "We're going to market this thing, and we're going to do something with it." But I was still a bit shy about
Mhm.
letting people know that I'd written the book. So I want to ask these questions because I want those people out there who are looking to put a book out to know that it's normal to be worried and concerned a little bit, but don't let it
Mhm.
stop you. Do it afraid. Just keep pushing. If this
Mhm.
is what you're meant to do, then you need to do it. I am a believer that
Mhm.
when God tells me to do something, I
Yeah.
need to do it.
Right.
And so when we fail to follow instruction, what happens when we fail to follow our parents' instructions, right? We are punished. And so I
Mhm.
feel that's how I feel about it. It's like if he says write, I write. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that feels that way. Now let's talk about, you know, I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of coming from these backgrounds where this may not have been what you saw every day from other people around you, or it may not have been exemplary
Mhm.
of the environment that you came from, but
Yeah.
doing it anyway. I think that is also a huge hurdle um, that a lot of us have to face when it comes to whether we self-publish or go with
Mhm.
some larger publishing house. There is this sense of, validation that we're looking for, and then we get to a place where we realize I don't need that validation. If I
Right.
self-publish it, it's just as good as if I don't self-publish. If I go with a
Mhm.
traditional publisher. How did you publish your books, and what talk to us about the process of getting your work out there? 10 books is a lot, and so we would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it is a lot. I've self-published. I started to reach out to like agents and publishing houses and all of that, and then of course, there's just this thing that they're looking for. So if you don't have it, which is generally not us,
Mhm.
or you like the conforming, I guess. So I decided, well, I want to get my books out there.
Mhm.
I had written like 12 books, between 2014 and 2015. And, I said, okay, I'll start with one and then see how that goes and then publish again. So, I mean, I used what is it, the Create Space or Amazon platform. to
Mhm.
publish in the beginning, and I still do. They're available on my website as well, but I just thought it was the best thing for me. I had creative control, on how I wanted my story told, and then I also had creative control on my covers, you know,
Mhm.
like like all of it. And then as far as like getting myself out there, like honestly, I would post on social media, "Oh, I published this book," but I wouldn't really talk about it. I wouldn't do anything. I would just publish, "Oh yeah, I published a book. That's nice." I never really marketed. I didn't do any of that until I would say 2019, 2020, like going into the pandemic, really.
Mhm.
I started to do more networking. I started to reach out and talk to other authors. I started to do more events in 2020 during the pandemic. Yeah, I
Mhm.
started to do more things and really found that people are interested.
Mhm.
At first people are confused, but then they're interested. So
Yeah.
it's like that
Mhm.
is kind of, where it's like, okay, I should keep going. I should keep doing this on my own. Like, I really don't need, to pay top dollar to some publishing house or a PR firm or whatever. I mean, maybe eventually, who knows? But at this point, no, I think I'm good. I like the control. I like to be able to choose who I'm
Mhm.
interacting with. I like to be able to choose where my books are. Which a lot of times when you go through publishing houses, you don't get that. It's like this is the market, this is what we do. Um, and that's
Let's talk a
I
little
don't know
bit.
if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, you did. You did. Absolutely. I like to hear about your publishing because it is I don't think sometimes people know how hard it is to make the decision to do what you do. It's one thing to write. Don't get me wrong, that's hard in itself. I was thinking about that the other day, just the fact of how difficult it can be to lay out a story, to
Mhm.
keep a tone and a voice, to build characters that are that you can continue with for 200 or 300 pages. Think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people who write are exceptional. And I don't say that because I write, because I don't necessarily see myself, in the class with many of you. I mean, I have 2 books out, you have 10. I respect so highly what you've done. But people who write have to have a level of organization that I don't think a lot of us, quite understand, is that it is really
Mhm.
dynamic to pull together all those pages, to keep that story going, to keep people and think about the reader and how they're going to be engaged in that story, to keep them
Mhm.
entertained, to know who the reader is or isn't, and how
Yeah.
to pique their interest. So with you writing romance, and let's talk
Mhm.
about a character that you've written
Mhm.
and the experience that you had in writing that character. Tell me about a character that you've written that's just like you, just like Sacha.
Uh, well, my mom always tells me because she reads them first before anyone. So she always tells me that all of the characters are have a piece of me. Like all of my female characters
Hmm.
have some piece of who I am. I don't think there's one that's just like me. There's I would say, okay, in Crazy Love and the Decision, I would say that's Crazy Love's the first book, The Decision's the sequel. Um, the female character, Camille, I would say is similar to me in the fact that her she lives with mental illness, and for her sometimes it can be debilitating, and it has stopped her from having relationships. It basically controls her life. I mean, she as long as she has certain structures in her life, she's fine.
Hmm.
But break away from that, it's like total chaos, and she doesn't know how to deal with that. So I would say like there's a lot of me in Camille because I get it. That's something that I live with every day too. I
Hmm.
live with mental illness, so it's like there are adjustments that you have to make in your life so that you can essentially function.
Hmm.
So I would say she would probably be as far as uh, she would be close, but then there's always like with my characters, there's always something. So whether it's like maybe a sense of abandonment, like somebody, you know, was abandoned, like in Love Undercover. You know, Renee, she lost her mother. Her mother was murdered, and then her father abandoned her at age of
Mhm.
11. So she grew up in the system, and then she became an FBI agent. But she was always guarded and shielded, and so when you go through trauma, you find different ways to deal with them. So again, like there's so many, like I could go through all of my stories and name just like little bits of each of the characters that they take, that takes from me and who I am. So that when I say it's my characters or my books are an extension of me, I truly mean that.
I think they are an extension of every writer. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what kind of book it is, whether it's a children's book
Yeah.
or fantasy, sci-fi, erotica. It's hard to build a character, whether it's the main
Mhm.
character or any sub character that doesn't take either from you as the writer or from
Mhm.
the people in your world. When I wrote my first book, I had people say to me, "Am I in your book?" And I was really shocked to hear that because they were afraid. I mean, it wasn't like, oh my, in your
Yes.
book, I'm excited. It was like, oh my God, did you put me in your book? And I didn't think that it would create so much of a fuss about
Mhm.
these characters because these
Yeah.
characters were completely opposite of the world that I lived in. But I must
Mhm.
admit, I was like, of course, I said no to them, but I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, yeah, you are in my book. I mean, I didn't name you and say anything that's going to hurt you or anybody will connect to you.
Mhm.
But if I'm
Right.
with you a lot, I'm looking at your
Mhm.
mannerisms and how you deal with things. And that does, you infuse that in your characters greatly. I like to write, I will sit in a restaurant and write because I like to hear people talk. And
Mhm.
I will get a dialogue based on just listening to people talk who I don't even know. So
Mhm.
yeah, you infuse a lot of things in your work. You've got a couple of questions coming in. I am
Oh.
wow. Okay, let's start at the top here. You said, "Hello, Miss Moore. Are you open to sharing the website where you've submitted your past novels for feedback?"
Oh, yeah, sure.
What's
It's oh, Wattpad. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
it's pretty,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty, yeah.
Wattpad, I've heard of that. I haven't used it. So thanks so much for sharing that with us. We've got questions for either Ms. Moore or Ms. Jackson. How many drafts do you do before you publish? And also, at what point do you know your book is ready? Do you second guess yourself as you get closer to putting out your book?
I as far as drafts, I don't know a lot because I have OCD and I'm like I'm like a perfectionist. So like I'll go through my book 10 times, 20 times, but then even still, like after I publish it and I like go through it because I always get a copy and I'm looking through it, I'm like,
Hmm.
I missed something.
Hmm.
It's because it's just you just do that. I mean, as an author, you want to put out your best work. You want to, make sure it's professional and well put together and people can understand you and it's we're our worst critic.
Hmm.
So, I don't know, 10, 15 that
Yes. 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 And if I have to answer that, you don't want to know the answer. I probably did 10 drafts of my last book took me 8 years to write.
Wow.
And I only wrote it in three, but it took me 5 years to get the nerve to put it out
Mhm. Mhm.
because it was so close to home. And I
Mhm.
was worried about people thinking that this book was about them or me
Mhm.
per
Yeah.
se. And it took a long time for me to get to that place of like, okay, look, you wrote it, let's do it, let's put it out there. But you talking
Mhm.
about drafts, I did so many until I couldn't read my work anymore. And that's when it's got to go to an editor, it's got to
Mhm.
go to a higher place because if
Yeah.
not, you're going to stress yourself out trying to review it. And it says, do you second guess yourself as you get closer to putting out your book?
Um, no. Like,
Hmm.
because when especially when I wrote like all those books, like I wrote 12, like they flowed through me. So it's like when I read them back, I was confused. Like, did I really write this? Like that was
Hmm.
kind of like I was surprised at the words that I wrote. So for me to publish them, I know that there's a reason for me to do that. Yes, they're romance novels, it's fiction, it's not like gonna save somebody's life, but it's, someone needs it.
Hmm.
So that's how I feel about it. It's like, okay, I need to publish them. So no, I don't second guess publishing my work at all.
Well, I am completely different. My first book, I wrote it, and it was a wonderful story. And then I got completely afraid to put it out. And so I went through a vanity publisher for the first one, and I sat with that book for about 3 months. And two things happened that really shocked me. And I definitely want to tell this story simply because I think it speaks to the fact that when you're meant to do something, you just need to do it. One was that a friend of mine who I hadn't seen or lived close to in years texted me one day and said, I had a dream that you wrote a book. Hadn't talked to her in years. And she said, I had a dream that you wrote a book and it was great. And I can't wait to read it. And it was just one of those things that kind of like, you know, no one knew I was writing a book.
Mhm.
And this was a friend, but not a very close friend. It was someone who meant a lot to me. We've been in some programs together, but it's not like we talked on the phone and things like that. So that really drove me. And then when I got into that 3 month period of being afraid to tell them to publish it, I was sitting at the TV and something came on. I think it was like Joel Osteen. And he
Mhm.
started talking about his 9-year old son telling his wife, hey, look, you always said you wanted to write books and you haven't published a book yet. And his wife, who goes, you're right. And it was just that
Mhm.
moment of like, okay, Michelle, get on that, get it. And I sent the email immediately and said publish.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
did, you can lose your confidence around writing a book, especially for a number of
Yeah.
reasons. One, when you don't have a community of people who really understand the process, and it is a
Mhm.
hard process to write a book. I will tell anyone that. It's beautiful,
Mhm.
it's a wonderful experience, but you, like I said, you got to keep those characters going, and the
Mhm.
dialogue has to flow, and you can't lose
Yeah.
anybody. All those things are happening. So great questions. I think we had one more. Someone said hello, Michelle. Hello. I don't know who that is. And then Denise said confirmation, and absolutely confirmation sometimes is what you need to move forward. So let's talk about the romance, because I think I mentioned you before. I love romance.
Mhm.
Watch a lot of Hallmark, y'all. I do. Um, it's so much so until my family is like, don't walk in the room with mom until she sees the kiss. I know it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen, but I still
Oh my God.
love to see the kiss. So let's talk about this love
Mhm.
you have for romance, and what have you learned about yourself in writing these romance novels?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's kind of bizarre because I'm not. I can't say I've never really been romance, you know. And like love to me is it's so many things.
Mhm.
And I think like for me, I write what I hope for people. You know, I obviously hope for myself, but I write what I hope would, you know, help people or guide people or, you know, let people like think outside of the box is what romance is. Because I think people are like, oh, you buy the flowers and the candies and the trips
Mhm.
and yeah, those are great. But it's really about knowing your partner. Like, I mean, that to me, it's like when someone truly knows you and gets you, and then that is romantic to me because that means that they're doing the things that are specific to you. You
Mhm.
know, not the cliche things, not, you know, what everybody does, you know, on certain times of the year or whatever, but it's just like they know who you are. You know,
Mhm.
that to me is so romantic. And that is like, that speaks volumes on loving someone, like really, truly loving someone. And then allowing that person in to know you as well. You know, like, or them allowing you to know them. I that kind of came out weird. But
Mhm.
yeah, so like, it vice versa. like because being open and allowing someone to love you and to know you, that is on a higher level of romance. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of traditional romance that I write, but there's so much more to it. There's, understanding what drives a person to do what they do, what, makes them happy, what makes them sad, how to be there for them, how to uplift them, like just it's so vast in romance. I always think outside of the box. I always do for yeah, any of my stories. I I
I
just
love it.
I just
So somebody on the page the other day said that they write these characters that they fall in love with, and then they have to break up with them every time they start a new book. And if they're writing multiple books, they feel like they're cheating. And it was the funniest thing because when you write, especially fiction, you fall in love with your characters and
every
they
time,
feel so real to you, whether it's a romantic situation or just your main characters in general.
every time.
I embody my characters. I feel them. I hear them speaking to me. It is so dynamic. And I love
Yeah,
that you love love because, in order to write about romance, you have to do that. But also, it's not something that's easily defined. You don't define it like I don't define what romance and love mean to you, and you don't define what romance and love mean to me.
yeah,
And I love that about it. It's so much more complicated than just a simple, I see you cross the room and we fall in love. Some people don't need any of that. Some of us we just want you to take the garbage out. I'm loving on you for that. You know what I'm saying?
that's it. Can I get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Exactly. It's like those things are cool, but bills paid and garbage out, and I got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I am like, you looking real hot to me, son. So I think that's what I love about, when you say traditional, non-traditional. I was watching one of these dating shows lately, the reality TV, and I was like, oh my gosh, this take me back to the tradition. Take
Mhm.
me back there. I'm good with that. So it's
Yeah.
so good to talk to you, Sasha, and to get to know you. I hope everybody will come out and meet you on tomorrow night. We are having our book relaunch party, and we have over 20 authors who will be in their booths. And all you have to do is go to the booth, hit enter booth, and you can meet with them. If they're there at their cameras, you can meet with them and you can also purchase their work. How dynamic is that to meet an author, to talk with them, to learn more about what drove them to write what they wrote, as well as to learn their process, to learn about their publishing. How great is that? To do that on the screen. That's what's so wonderful about technology.
Mhm.
And so we're going to be using it the right way. But on top of the vendors, I mean, the exhibitors in their booth, we will also have music and games and author interviews. And you can see Sasha on the screen being interviewed with a panel of authors, and they're all talking about their work and their experiences. And so we're so excited to have you a part of the BWW. And we're so excited to know that you're going to be there tomorrow with us to enlighten us about how much you love love. And I'm looking forward to it, girl. So I'll be popping into your booth as well. So thank you
Yay.
so much for being with us. Anything you want to leave some of our writers with, any hints about, how to stay on course and move things ahead? I would love to hear that from you.
Just stay true to yourself. I mean, there's people are going to have opinions all the time. But your work is your own.
Mhm.
It's your voice, it's your thoughts, it's your creativity. Don't let anybody take that. Like be true to yourself. Yes, we get stuck, we get writer's block,
Mhm.
it happens and it's real, but like staying true to who you are as a person, like even once you're published, you have several books under your belt, you start meeting people, interviews, all of that, still stay true to who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is your legacy. It
It is.
will outlive you. It will be the what your kids read and share and tell people about you. Mom wrote 10 books or 12 books or 50 books. You know,
Mhm.
she poured herself into this. So as a writer, I think it's so important for us to take this, not only take it serious, but know that this is going to outlive us.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's something, it's only so many things that will outlive us,
Mhm.
but the written word will. And so I'm very happy to hear you say that. Thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. And can let everyone know where they can buy your books.
You can visit my website at www.swansongbooks.com, and that's SWANNSONG books.com. They're also available on Amazon. They're in audio, I mean, in ebook and paperback on both of those. But if you buy from our website, I generally sign them and send a little gift. So.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. And again, thank you so much for being with us.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. I am so excited about this event and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care.
Take care. Bye.
So, everyone, once again, we had Sasha Moore, and we have been talking to authors all week long. And I'm so excited about that. But tomorrow and Saturday are the two big events. One, tomorrow is the book relaunch party. It's free to attend. Go to boothcentral.com to register. Please register. It helps us a lot when you pre register so we can get a feel for who's coming in and, and the type of books that you may like and different things like that. Also, we will have a scavenger hunt. And so tomorrow, what you will be asked to do is to go to each booth and to find out where the writer lives, their city. And for those of you who can show me or email me where our writers live and get the most correct, we have a dynamic prize for you. But we will also have trivia and we'll be giving away prizes all through the night. You can get autographed books, you can get wellness sessions, you can get BWW merch, all types of things will be available for you if you get those questions right. So we've got music, we've got games, we've got interviews, and we've got authors ready to hear and ready to talk to you. So please join us tomorrow. On Saturday, the symposium, we still have tickets left for the symposium. If you're interested in going and being my special guest, just send me an email at events@prssolutionsllc.org. PR Solutions is my PR company. And once again, using my writing skills, I have that PR company and I'm really proud of it. And so anytime you see PR Solutions LLC, know that that is my company. And you're always welcome to send me an email, find out what I'm working on, and be a part of it. So we have another interview that will start at 6:30. So we will return at that time. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to be here. If anyone's got any questions for me, I'll stay on for a little bit longer and answer any questions you may have, whether it's about the event, whether it's about my work, because I never get a chance to talk a lot about what I do, but I am a self-published author as well. I have two books. One is The Heart of a Man, which is a story about Conrad Biden, who is a wealthy Atlanta real estate mogul. He has all the money in the world, but he's very unhappy. And so he's in a loveless marriage and he begins to go down a path to so-called find his happiness, but he continues to go in the wrong direction. And so I hope that you will read this book because you will find out how God speaks to Conrad and helps him to straighten his path. And you will see it gets a little steamy and it has a lot of romance in it. I think you will really enjoy it. My other book is From Darkness to Night, Book One, Family Secrets, a book that I released February of 2020. That book is about Renata Morris, who is a 24-year-old who lives in Alabama, and her brother is murdered, and she blames herself for his murder. And so she goes through quite a bit in order to deal with the guilt and the shame that she's experiencing. However, she finds herself in a mental institution where she finds this wonderful new friend who begins to open up to her and help her to deal with some of her past issues. Now, just like Conrad, Renata goes down a very interesting journey to try to find herself. These are real people with real issues and they make a lot of mistakes. I like writing about the human condition, and so that's what I do. You can find both of my books on my website at authormichelledjackson.com. You can also find them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and a host of other digital platforms. But for now, we're going to take a break. And please stay with us. We have another interview starting in 15 minutes. And take this time also to register for the book fair tomorrow night. We're trying to make sure that our authors are selling books because that's what it's all about. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's Michelle here again to talk with another amazing author from the Black Writers Workspace. We have Jamilah Bashir, and her book, Because of Her, is a children's book that she's going to tell us all about. I'm excited to have her. She's another one of our authors from the page who will be at the event tomorrow night. And you can meet her in her booth. You can buy her book. You can learn about her writing process. That is what's so amazing about this book relaunch party. So, tomorrow night between 5 and 9 p.m., if you're in your car, you can put it on as a podcast like event. If you're at home and from the computer, you can always turn on your video camera and jump into one of our chat rooms. If you're walking around the house just hanging out and washing clothes or whatever you're going to be doing tomorrow night, please turn it on, get to know our authors, buy a book, and support our new and independent authors. That is so important to all of us. So right now, we're going to bring Jamilah on the screen so we can learn about her book. You can always drop your comments in the comment box and just play a role, be a part of this interview. We're looking forward to meeting her. Hi.
Oh, and my name is pronounced Jamilah Bashir.
Okay, but Jamilah. Okay,
Yes.
great. So nice to meet you. Sorry we didn't have time to kind of connect a little bit beforehand, but we had an interview before you.
Absolutely.
And so we are live now talking to you about your book. You're one of the latest ones to come on board as one of our exhibitors for tomorrow's event. Very excited to have you. I love having children's book writers in this particular event, but just talking to you in general. But tell us about yourself and tell us about your work.
Sure. My name is Jamilah Bashir, and I self-published a book because of her. My background is in special education, and I went into that particular field because my little sister has a intellectual disability. So for a while, like I had seen like a couple of my friends have written books, and I always wondered like, what would I write about, and I always wanted it to be something that's personable to me. So I went to a writer's workshop, and at that workshop, they said, if you could write a book, what would you write about? And my sister came to mind, and I was like, well, let me write about what it was like growing up with her, because me and my little sister are 6 years apart. So I just started writing, and then we had to share out, and everyone was like, oh my God, I would love to read that, and also it was on my mind to do because I always seen, parents, caregivers write a book about their experience with their children. And I'm like, well, the siblings have an experience too. And I'm quite sure other siblings, if they didn't have a sibling that had a disability, they can understand and relate to having to be responsible for a sibling and sometimes feeling like you're the parent and not the sibling. So I thought that a lot of people could relate to that. And we just went from there. I just started writing and the story came to me.
Excellent. So children's books are always something that's intriguing to me because I feel like when you write a children's book, you have this opportunity to explore an issue that could be very important. It could be racism, it could be sexism, it could be, disabilities, or living with a disability. It could be anything, but you're doing it in this whimsical way, but it's really tackling a really important issue and summing it up in a way that we can digest it. That's what I love about a good children's book. Talk to us about your process of writing the book and tell us what your little sister has to say about it.
Well, again, education is my background. So I wanted my book to be digestible by anyone that read it. I didn't want it to be a hard read. I didn't want it to be a long read either. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I just wanted it to be accessible for everyone and the truth. Because people, like, after people read my book, they're like, oh my God, I could feel your emotion in that story. I could feel everything you were saying. So that was ultimately the purpose behind it and how I wrote it. And there's and then coming up with the how I wanted to do the book. It's like one part is when we're children, and then the other part is like fast forward. Here we are now, today's time. How is everything going, and how is she doing? So I wanted, because I didn't want to make the book long, because I'm like, this is my life with my sister. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot of years. And I'm like, I don't want it to be long and drawn out where you lose the understanding of the story, and you lose like the purpose of this story. So that was my process. And actually, I would just write a little bit each day. Some days I had writer's block. I was just like, I'm so lost. I don't even know where to start. And then there were days where I just literally I wrote like 12 pages one day, was just writing, and having my older sister read over what I wrote, because she knows the story as well. So she was able to help me fill in some holes I may have had, where she may have said, okay, you need to go talk to mommy about this, because this is not what happened. This is a little bit more to this, or whatever. So I was grateful to have my sister, my older sister, like look it over and, just fill in the holes, like I said, and give me guidance into where she was like, okay, you need to go in more detail here, because there's more to this. So that was literally the whole process.
When did you publish your book?
I published my book in 2018. It was May of 2018, actually. May of 2018, I told my younger sister, her name is Asia, I told her what I was doing. I said, this has been on my mind to do. Are you okay with me writing about us? And she was like, sure, go ahead. She was very positive about it. And then once I finished, I shared the story with her. I showed her, it's not heavily illustrated, but there are a few. So I shared those with her. She was just like, she liked the pictures. She liked the story. And that was another thing. My older sister was just like, oh, these pictures are great. They match with what you're talking about. And, it wasn't, like I said, it's not heavily illustrated, but there are a few illustrations in there. So she was positive about the whole reason behind me doing the book. And when the project was completed, I got good feedback from her.
That's excellent. So talk to us about working with an illustrator, because I'm now working on a graphic novel. And it is for teens and I guess you could say people in their early 20s, but it teaches them how to start businesses. And so this is the first time I've ever worked with an illustrator. Did you illustrate it yourself, or did you hire someone to do it for you?
No, I actually, because I didn't have because my book wasn't heavily illustrated, there were a few, I went on Fiverr, where there are a lot of freelance individuals, and I literally described to this person what I wanted my cover to look like. And this person was not in the United States, like literally took my description and made my cover what it was. And two changes I needed him to do was change this bench, and I need to make these girls black. Other than that, like it was, he got everything that I was describing. I'll say that would be the most difficult part with getting an illustrator, making sure you get someone who can bring your vision to life. And the fact that we were online, I didn't know this person, and we weren't in person either. It was a lot of really going as much detail as I could, and then sending examples of things to them, so that way they could bring my visions to life. I would say that was the most difficult part. Now, if you have an illustrator with you, again, just making sure their pictures really match what your vision is. I think that is the biggest thing, finding an illustrator that can do that, like the vision you have in your mind for your characters, that they can actually bring that to life.
Sounds great. I did go to Fiverr initially. I did find someone locally to do it, and I've been talking and working with him. So thank you so much for the advice on that. You have your book. We would love to take a look at it.
My book is right here. Hold on one second. So this is the cover. So literally, I described my cover in words. I said, I basically want a silhouette of two girls. They're going to be sisters. I need one to be older and one to be younger. And that was it. And I said, I want them to be sitting on a bench. And that was it. That was all the detail I gave them. Of course, I went in a little bit more detail in regards to hair and things like that, but that was it. So he came up with everything else, it being in a park and all of that. And again, the two changes, he changed this bench and he made these girls brown. That was the change. But yeah, so this is the cover, and then this is my back cover.
Nice. Love it. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your publishing. How did you publish the book, and what did you learn in that process?
I self-published my book. one, I did it that way was because I wanted to control just everything about my book. And I wanted it to be written a certain way. I wanted it to look a certain way. I didn't want no one having hands on that and telling me, well, I think it should be this way or whatever, because this was just something that was heavy on my mind. And I wanted to just bring my vision to life. So that was the main reason why I went the self-publishing route. And through doing the self-publishing route, I was like, oh, okay, it's not as difficult as I thought it was. I really thought it was going to be a long, it was a process, but it wasn't as stressful as I thought it was going to be. Like once I literally had my draft done, I got an editor to look it over. Then I had someone format my book for me, format the cover, what size book that I wanted to be, getting the copyright and everything. It was just like it was just like steps. It was kind of like checking off a checklist. Okay, did you do your editor? Did you get your? It was more of that way, and I was just like, oh, this is not so difficult. Okay, if I want to do another book, I know what I have to do, and that's really what the process was like. It was not as stressful as I thought it was going to be.
And what type of comments or what type of reception have you received for the book?
I'll say it's been a blessing. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback towards my book. People, parents who have children who have a child with a disability, or I've had some people who they don't have any children. You know, they have siblings. They was like, oh, I really could relate. I know what it feels like to be responsible for a sibling. Oh, I know what it feels like, to do X, Y, Z. I did a radio interview, and the host was just like, oh my God, I wanted to go through the book and hit that person that you were angry with. Like, he was like, I could feel your anger. I was getting angry myself, so I've gotten, it's been a blessing. I've gotten great feedback towards my book. People are asking me, oh, when are you writing another one? When's the next one? And I'm just like, okay, I really got to think about what is, you know how you want it to be good. Again, I want it to be the truth. So it's like, okay, let me get a story together, because I do have some ideas, but I'm like, do I want to do another book? So it's like, I'm just thinking about that. But that has been another response I've gotten from people. Are you going to write another one?
You should do it. I'm going to write another one. Come back on here. We are so excited to have you. We know you're going to be there tomorrow night. We hope that everyone will come by and see you, get to see your book, buy your book. That's what this event is all about. We're hoping to sell books, and we have so much going on at this event. We have music and prizes and a scavenger hunt and interviews, and then you can also, of course, go down in the authors lounge and meet with the authors, and we have over 20 authors, new and independent, who will be there with their books. So excited to see it. I'm happy to see you create a character with someone who has a disability and really empowering them. And so I think that is so important. I was talking to someone the other day. I was interviewing an author who wrote a book about a young boy with autism who becomes the hero of the story. And it was so touching to me, because I don't see enough of that. And so I'm just happy to see that you are not only honoring your sister, but also honoring your relationship and your experiences with your sister through this book. Books are their legacy. They're going to stay around for a very long time. And you are leaving something brilliant for her and for generations to come. So congratulations with that as well. Is there anything you want to share with us or with our writers about your process and how to just stay focused and keep moving forward?
Absolutely. I would say, like you said, Michelle, just do it. Whatever is on your mind to do, just do it. Get a notebook specifically for your book and just write. Even if you just write a line each day, that's more than what you had the previous day. And accept your small wins. Today, you might have written a line. Next week, you might write pages. Like, celebrate your wins and give yourself grace throughout the process. It is not a race. I know some people say, oh, you can get it done in 30 days and da-da-da-da. Go at your pace, because it'll be so much more meaningful, because you devoted your time to it. You've devoted your attention to it. You put in your blood, sweat, and tears into this project, and it's going to be a great outcome in the end. So give yourself grace. Write a little bit each day. If you get writer's block, That's natural. It happens, but continue to set time each day to write.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tomorrow, when people come into your booth, what is it that you're going to share with them? What's your pitch to get this book off the shelf?
My pitch is basically, this is a story for everybody. Even if you don't have a child with a disability or a sibling with disability, everybody can relate to my story. And I'll say that has been the feedback I've gotten. Like, people can say, oh my gosh, I know what that feels like. Everybody can relate to this story. And we'll get the chat. You get to learn where I'm from to help you win that scavenger hunt, to help you finish the scavenger hunt. So it's going to be a nice time. I'm so excited to just see everybody and speak with just, the audience and everyone coming. So yes, I'm just so happy, Michelle, that you are relaunching this virtual book fair. I am so excited.
Well, I'm excited that you're a part of it. I just, you just came on board this week, and we are still, if you're looking to exhibit, you're welcome to sign up. We still have space and time for you to do it before tomorrow night, for those of you out there. But I was so excited because I like having a lot of children's books in this particular book fair. We've done this 3 times. This is the first time we have so many children's books, as well as the first time we've had so many sci-fi books and fantasy.
Oh, okay.
And so these are 2 genres that I want to see. I love to see more African Americans be a part of. So it's great. I mean, it's just great to see you be a part of this. And what I love about the children's books too is that they're so personal. Like, everybody I know who writes a children's book is either is about their child, their siblings, their kids that they are interacting with in their class. It's very personal, and so that makes it mean just so much more, I think, to the reader, because we know that you want to tell a good story, a wholesome story about your experiences with your sister. So thank you so much for being a part of this, and we're going to sign out. But before we go, please tell us how we can buy your book if we're not attending the event tomorrow, which I'm sure there's really no one out there who's not attending the event tomorrow. But for those how do they buy your book?
So if you want to purchase my book, you can go to www.theiepcoachllc.com and purchase my book directly from my website. And you can also get it on Amazon as well. So you can go to my website, www.theiepcoachllc.com, to purchase my book. And you can go on Amazon.
We had one comment to come in from Denise. She said, great story idea. And I do definitely commend you on your story idea. Congratulations for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
And I'm glad your sister liked it, because she is really the one person who is the most important person to like it. And so that is so great to know that she also enjoys it. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. So everyone, again, tomorrow night, please join us. It's an easy thing. Go to boothcentral.com, find the event. It is for tomorrow, July 30th. Sign up. It's free. You can come in and out as you like, and you can buy books. That's what we're here to do. This is like the virtual Barnes and Noble. You walk in the door, you buy books. That's what we're there to do. So I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. You have 4 hours of just buying books, seeing me, listening to music, winning prizes. It's going to be a dynamic event. And on Saturday, we have the Writer's Symposium. If you're still interested in attending, please send me an email at events@prsolutionsllc.org. Thank you.